Right, good morning guys, welcome to another week of online remote learning on IT, and we're going to continue with Unit 17. Last Friday you submitted P1, the 4 pillars of the Internet of Everything, and explaining what each pillar is and why it's considered such an important aspect of the concept of the Internet of Everything. So that means now we have completed 3 assignments from Unit 17, so we really are beginning to make some good headway into this unit. I'll be marking the 4 pillars during this week, so you should see marks appearing in the marking grid maybe towards Wednesday or Thursday, and it means that today we're going to start the final assignment under this first section of Unit 17. Okay, so it's the last of these kind of research-based assignments that we'll be doing, and then we sort of change tact as we move down into section 2. Okay, but as you can see, it's the first piece of distinction work that you've been asked to complete, and it's called Evaluate the Potential Negative Impacts of these innovations, and obviously by innovations we're referring to IoE innovations, on businesses. So the first thing that you need to do, because it's going to require a new document, or if you've already got the template set up, then you might already have the title for this inside that document. But the title of this next assignment is Distinction 1D1: the potential negative impacts of IoE innovations could have on a business. Okay. Underneath that, you've got 6 key headings, so these are going to be the areas that you're going to need to cover, so you could also put these in your heading 2 style. So you've got data, information gathering devices, connectivity, security issues, network connections, and converting data. Okay, so they're the subheadings that we need. Now, because this is an evaluate key command word in the marking grid, it means that you've got to write the assignment in a certain way. Just notice here in this particular assignment you're evaluating the negative impacts. Okay, so you're not going to be talking too much about the positive side and the potential for IoE to do businesses good, but you are going to be evaluating the potential negative impacts. Okay, so just remember that as you're writing this assignment. Okay. So the first strand of this assignment that you need to focus on is discussing the negative impact that data causes for companies that are planning to get involved in the Internet of Everything, and the challenges that companies will face if they adopt IoE into their business. So I suspect you could probably identify a few of these already based on some of the knowledge you've already gathered, but these are the areas that I want you to think about. Today's lesson, we're just going to focus on doing the research and gathering articles that we can use to support the points that we make and evidence. So yeah, we're just going to focus on data today. So challenges that data face, so evidence that you're looking to find online that maybe support arguments within these particular areas. So obviously one of the first challenges a business is going to face is where they're actually going to store this data. You know, that's a question mark, that if companies are looking at embedding IoE in their business and they're collecting data, where are they going to store it? We'll come back to that one in a second. The costs of storing data. So this would be a really good one to get facts and figures on. So where are companies, how much is it going to cost companies to store the data? Can you actually get facts and figures that give indications as to you know, what that cost might be or potentially could be? Think about it in different areas as well. So, you know, what's the cost going to be of the servers that they're going to need to be able to store this data on? What might their electricity consumption be and the costs associated with that consumption be? The maintenance costs of maintaining the servers that are going to host this data and store this data. So try and find lots of articles that sort of refer to IoE, storage of data, the costs, and you know, maybe you could find some general costs. You know, how much does it cost to run a data center for a year, for example? What are the energy costs involved in that, and so on. So anything that you feel is relevant in relation to the cost of storing data, throw in and put the links into the Padlet file. Going back to where they're going to store the data, well, one of the decisions the business is going to make is going to be, well, are we going to store it ourselves, i.e. are we going to do it locally and privately? Are we going to actually sort of host the data within our company ourselves? And you could find articles there that look at the advantages and disadvantages of either outsourcing data storage to a third party or keeping it within house. So yeah, you could have that debate and show that understanding. The other option, of course, to actually hosting it in-house is to use a cloud provider, maybe a third party to store the data. But again, that would bring with it its own particular issues. Okay, so you can evaluate there the difference between those two approaches, and both of them will cause issues for a business. Okay, so see what you can find in terms of issues that either approach will have in relation to storing data there. Okay, I think you might even have some notes from last year which you can refer back to in relation to private and public clouds as well that might help be helpful. Okay, other challenges that businesses have, well, it's likely going to be that the data that they're collecting from IoE devices that they use is going to need to be kept available all of the time. I think you'll remember that again we've looked into technologies that businesses can use to maintain continuous service. So again, they're not cheap technologies, but they might be essential if the business is going to maintain their service and not lose face in the event of some downtime. So technologies, if you remember things like RAID, remote backup servers, UPSs, backup generators, etc. Again, you could investigate and look into those and see what articles you can find that maybe support the difficulties in implementing those technologies and the costs again of implementing those technologies, because yeah, it's very, very likely, of course, that we live in this 24/7 society these days, and the data that's captured by businesses is going to need to be available around the clock. So there are challenges there for businesses that need to do that. The amount of data that's captured. So this is going to be another really tricky thing, isn't it? Because obviously these IoT devices, their job is to collect data and communicate it. How much of that data do you capture? How much of that data do you keep? How long do you keep it for? If you start collecting too much data, you're going to fast run out of storage space, and you're going to need to expand your storage space. I suspect you could find lots of interesting statistics there about the amount of data that the IoE is expected to generate, how a business is actually going to keep pace with that data capture, and not run out of storage. It's a big question mark. Okay, so statistics around the amount of data would be good to find that's IoE related. I think you'll definitely find examples in relation to that. And then sort of building into that, how long do they actually keep the data for? How are they going to dispose of the data? So again, the issues of managing data become more tricky and more challenging for businesses as they gain and collect more of it. Okay, and again, we sort of touched on this a little bit in class, but they're going to need really good systems in place, different methods of disposal, and you could maybe sort of evaluate some of the different ways that they could do that. I think you might remember, from hard disk shredders to formatting disks, to degassing disks, etc. There are various ways and challenges that are going to be created in relation to actually disposing of data in a safe manner. Okay, and the final thing that we could maybe say that's going to be the challenge for businesses is legislation requirements as well. And again, you could maybe highlight examples of requirements for businesses that are using IoE devices that they need to adhere to. And of course, the big challenge for business here is going to be making sure they're in compliance and that they don't and won't face any kind of fine from a information commissioner, perhaps if it was DPA that we were talking about. Okay, so any articles there around IoE and company legislation requirements that will need to be followed and adhered to would be good in terms of evidence. Okay, so today's lesson is just purely research. We're only going to focus on the data strand, and I want you to see if you can find as many articles online. Try and find reliable sources as well, please, of information. And then when you find a particular article similar to the merit assignment that we did, there's a Padlet available, and if you can come across here and just focus on the plus for the data category today, and I just want you to upload articles on there. Okay, the more articles that we can get on there, the better, and it just means that when you actually get around to writing this particular assignment, you're going to have hopefully a really good foundation of information to use to support the evaluation that you do. Okay, So that's everything from me for today. Yeah, big focus is on getting the research done. Tomorrow we'll move on and we'll have a look at the process. Hopefully by the end of this week you'll be in a position to begin to start actually writing the assignment, but for now just research please guys.